Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing great. Thank you once again for tuning in to the Exquisite Side Hustle. So guys, as you all know, on this channel we're all about business, side hustles, or anything that has got to make us some money, legally might I add. So today we're going to be talking about investment, and specifically property investment. What is there to know? You know, just as Bitcoin, we always advise to put your money in something, invest into something. And what we all know is that with property business, or what is always said, is that with property, you can never go wrong. But is that really true? Today, we're going to talk to somebody who's invested in property and knows more than I can share with you. So please do stay tuned if you are interested to know more. As we can all hear, we have a distinguished person in our midst today, and I'm excited to know all that he has to tell us today, his knowledge, his depth, and his experience about investment in property. So without wasting much time, Doc, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. I am Dr. Francis Owusu Tsumesi. I'm a doctor in geography, currently working with the National Geospatial Information. It's a public unit under the Department of Agric, Land Reform and Rural Development in South Africa. In simple terms, that is who I am. And I'm a Ghanaian by birth and a South African by naturalization. Yes, based here in Cape Town in the southern suburb of Kenilworth.
It's a great honor to have you with us today, especially to talk to us about investing in property. So, Doctor, is it true that when you go to have property, if you go into property, you can never go wrong? Is that a myth or it is the truth?
Yes, to some extent, you will never go wrong. But to a certain extent, you can also bend your fingers. So it's a misfeeling, properties. And it's a matter of making sure that you cross your T's and dot your I's. Because if you don't get those things done, the fundamentals, if they are not in place, you're likely to jeopardize the whole exercise. So in a nutshell, I would say, yes, there is a blessing in having a property, and it can also end up becoming a curse if you are not able to put your house in order.
Okay, and that's much interesting. So Doctor, what would you like to share with us today? The bending of the hands, the good side, the bad side, we want it all mixed up. So please enlighten us.
Thank you very much once again. I think I will narrow our discussion to the South African perspective.
That is correct.
I'll probably speak to the do's and the don'ts of owning a property and also rentals in the South African terrain. I'll look at it from a personal journey as a landlord. I know that there has been experiences as tenants too, but I'll stick to the experience of a landlord. What is it that you have to do? And what is it that you do not have to do as a landlord? So renting out property in South Africa, like we've already indicated, is having a two-barrel or two-way approach that one needs to be mindful of both approaches or both lights. The main contributors to being a successful landlord or being a successful owner is making sure that you are selecting the possible tenants who will give you the best results, the best possible tenant, and ensuring that the renter is well maintained. That's the first cardinal principle that as a property owner, you need to look at. Make sure that the person that you are bringing in is the right person. And that is a journey on its own. And so if you don't have the time to keep up your property in terms of maintaining it, it is likely that you are going to be inundated along the line. And so that then brings in the need to get a helping hand. I'm saying if you have that property and you know that you may not have the time to handle or manage it, it is important to begin to look into getting a helping hand. In this case, we look at a reputable property rental agency. You need to consider getting a reputable property rental agency. Remember the word reputable.
very important.
Yes, because the market is flooded with a lot of property agencies.
It's true.
So going out there with the intent of making a living out of property rental, you need to look into getting a reputable agency. And how do you pick up the rental agency that will seek to respond to this question of reputation?
Yeah.
It's very important. And that then leads us to this important question of estate agency. There is the need to ensure that whoever or the company that you are going in for is a registered agency with the Estate Agent Affairs Board.
Oh, okay.
It has to be registered with the Estate Agent Affairs Board. That's the first hurdle. Now, having registered with the South African Estate Agents Affairs Board is not enough. The next important variable is to check whether that company is having the Fidelity Fund certificate. There is a certificate called the Fidelity Fund certificate.
Okay.
And is the Fidelity Fund certificate current? It's possible that it's not current. They may have it and it's not current. It may be old.
Right. Yeah.
So as the owner of the property, you have a responsibility to go extra mile, to check, to do a due diligence, to make sure that that estate agency is one registered with the board and two having the Fidelity Fund certificate, and that it must also be current. Now, over and above that, you must also make sure that the staff of this agency are also qualified.
Oh, wow.
So can you see the hurdles that you need to do? And sometimes we take that for granted.
Yes, we do.
And we, in a hurry, commit ourselves with any estate agency, and then that begins another problem. So why do we need to ensure that there is a fidelity certificate? You need to get an estate agency with the fidelity certificate because it allows access to the fidelity funds to reimburse someone who, under certain circumstances, has suffered a loss or as a result of dealings with that estate agent. If you suffer a loss, like you've got a tenant and it's not paying, you can fall on that fidelity fund. But you will not be helped if your certificate is not current in that regard. Another important factor that I would be quick to raise is about make sure that whatever that goes on in terms of your engagement is put in writing. Avoid verbal communication. You can talk, you can discuss, but at the end of the day, it has to be reduced in writing. Why? Because it will protect the tenant and also you, the landlord. There are those who will tell you, I never said this, I never said that. But when things are written down, you can't lie. We will all refer to what is written, and it makes life easier.
So this can be on WhatsApp or emails, isn't it?
Yes.
Preferably emails.
Most preferably in an email form, so that it is more or less formal. You can, bank on that. Because I don't know about social media, I'm not a fundi there. Some people can decide to tell you, no, I never had anything with you on that. And it becomes your word against his word. Oh, that phone got missing or it got lost, and it becomes an issue. So it will be important to get things in writing. And that is for the interests of the tenant as well, and also the landlord, because the other side of the coin is also true. Sometimes tenants also may need to be protected. There are things that will have to be written to their benefit. So writing whatever that gets discussed is very, very important. So upon writing, I'm also saying that it is also very important to be detailed. Aside the whatever that you write down, it has to also be detailed and be properly checked. Now, let's stick to now the issue of the tenant.
Yeah.
The tenant comes in. How did you get a tenant? Is it through a friend, did this tenant find his way to you through maybe an informal engagement with someone? You need to be careful about all those details. It has to be references, and all those references must be checked. There must be due diligence with the tenant. Make sure that you know the financial profile of the tenant. Know the professional profile of the tenant. Is he working? If he's working, is he in a full-time job? Is he in a part-time job? What is his past records as to where he used to stay? Now, if you do not do all these, you are likely to burn your fingers. If you have got a reputable estate agent, they will take care of that.
Okay.
But I'm trying to be double barrel here.
Yeah.
Much as you have given that task to the estate agent, you also need to satisfy yourself.
That's true. That's true.
You need to satisfy yourself because there are problematic tenants. You see, some of these problematic tenants are sometimes incredibly adept. By incredibly adept, what I mean is they are very, very crafty. They are crafty and also witty. They are game for many years. They move from one house to the next. And they do not, they are able to cover their past bad records. Some of them, there have been judgments against them in courts. They have to be forced out of the properties that they live in. Now, when they are speaking to you, wanting to get into your property, if you take them at their words without checking their records, without doing due diligence, you will be fooled. They are very smooth in talking, and they can sway you, with words. But do not allow words to sway you. Allow the documents to speak for themselves. Okay, and one such important variable is to make sure that you are not driven by sympathy. Don't be driven by sympathy to make decisions. There are those who will come to you, we are being chased from our place, the owner will hand it over to the son, or they won't tell you that they are not paying rent. They will give you a very good reason to say, please give us your place. And the moment you do that, the moment you make a sympathetic decision, that's the beginning of your problem. So I would always say that to be forewarned is to be forearmed. Treat everyone purely on business grounds. Everyone purely on business grounds. Do not allow the exigencies of the situation to push you to make sympathetic decisions. Don't. The moment you do that, you burn your fingers. Now, another important variable is also to keep the place, to keep your property clean and also safe because it's yours. Remember, aside the rental, when the property is well kept and maintained, it assumes value. The value goes up.
That's true.
When you buy a property in 2009, and we are in, you buy it, maybe you say 400,000, and we are in 2021, and the property is now worth 1.7 million. Let's put the rental aside. Can you see how the value has appreciated? From 500,000 rents, it has now gone to, let's say, 1.7 million. It tells you that property is not only about rental, it's also about the value. So sometimes if you are driven by only the rental, you may not be able to stomach the challenges that come with it. So having the long-term perspective of it to say the value is likely to appreciate, and so I need not worry. I must hold on till the point where I'll be able to then release that property so that I'll be able to sort of make money out of it. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is we need to make sure that we maintain the property, because after 10 years, the market should be able to appreciate your property. And that can only happen if you are able to keep all the safety variables in place, if you are able to make sure you are hands-on to keep it clean. Where it needs to be painted, it gets done. Where plumbing works needs to be done, you make sure you factor it in. Let me also speak about security, because we are in South Africa. In South Africa today, security is a key issue. Now, depending on the location of your property, depending on the location that you are letting that property, you may want to review, you may want to add, you may want to upgrade the security. Because if the security is on top, you are likely to get better rental. And the value of the property is also likely to appreciate better. So location is a very important variable if you are intending to buy and if you are even renting, because the tenants want to know where the property is. Where it's an important variable because it tells with regards to its proximity to social amenities and all that. So even distance from transport modes that the person may be using. So those variables need to be factored in to also consider the safety of the tenant himself or herself. So in doing all this, it is important to have at the back of your mind the issue of insurance, because the property needs to be insured as well. So insurance companies will also look at the location to determine the premium. Let me also quickly speak a bit about the lease agreement. Lease agreement is an important document that seeks to bring the tenant and the landlord together. You do not meet for anything but on the basis of what is reduced in writing in the lease agreement. But a lot of landlords, myself included, make a lot of mistakes about the lease agreement. So use a valid lease agreement. The valid lease agreement must seek to also consider all the factors that are prevailing, because South Africa is a highly legislated country. There are a lot of laws that keep coming. And so the lease agreements must be dynamic. It must to respond to the legislative environment of the country. The tenants have got rights, the landlords also have got rights, and all those are reduced in different legislations. And so if you go for a generic lease template, lease agreement template, it will come to bite you. So it's important you have the right one. There are some lease agreements that are terrible. Some of the templates are terrible. And if you are going to use them, you are going to expose yourself as a landlord. And I speak from experience. I bent my fingers using a generic lease agreement which did not reflect the legislative nature of the country. And so as I speak, I am saying that people need to make sure that any template they are using are factoring in issues around the Housing Act, issues around the Consumer Protection Act, and there are issues even today around POPI, Personal Information Act.
Oh, okay.
Someone gives you information as a tenant, you have to protect that information. You are not supposed to disclose it to any other person. All those policies and acts are supposed to be factored in. So you need to make sure that you have a lease agreement that is well drafted and that to cover all necessary issues. Now, in case you are not versed in that, that is where, and you do not have a reputable estate agent. That is where I will advise that you need to seek help from an attorney, cover all your bases, because you may tend to take some of these things for granted. But it may come to bite you. So at this stage, I think I will end here. Listen to you if you've got questions.
Well, I think it's well explained, but so now with all this said, it seems that it's a very tedious investment. Like, just to say yes to property and to invest in it, it's a whole lot of things that I see that I've not considered things like even the registered estate agents, how to do investigations on your tenants and all that. That never crosses my mind. But when you are going into property, who advises you on all this? How did you find out with this? Is this as a result of how it ended up in your process of investing, or you were actually sat down and was given all this rundown?
Thank you. Personally, I am someone who takes delight in properties. My background, I have grown into liking properties. And so I never got the chance here in South Africa to be briefed by anyone. But the desire for properties back home is what, is what led me into making such a decision to step into it. So it's something that I picked up along the line. You make mistakes here and there, and then as you burn your fingers, you don't want to repeat it. You don't have to get through the same path. So you then learn in a hard way to go and research more. I got it wrong this time. How did I get it wrong? And what do I do? So I begin to ask myself difficult questions and engage the relevant people. Like I've got an attorney that as I speak with you, I'm working with. She has been very helpful to me because I have a case in point currently with a tenant. We ended up in court. The tenant has been staying in my property for more than a year. And I do not want to mention names of countries, but this person is from a certain country from West Africa. And for more than a year, this person has been arrogantly not paying anything to a point that when the matter was heard on the 3rd of May in court, the judge reduced this guy by asking, are you paying your rent? The guy paid rent since since March 2020 up to date. He has not paid rent. He has not paid for water. He has not paid for electricity. He has not paid for parking. Remember, it is in a security complex. In a complex, you pay what we call for the body corporates. There are rates and all that you pay. He has not paid any of such. And all those have been on my shoulder as the landlord. So these are hidden costs that if you are not careful, and you cannot just chase this person from the property. Now he goes to court with a simple defense to say he's got 5 kids. And so the court should look at the 5 children and allow them to continue staying in that property.
No.
And this is what I probably have to say, that the court was very clear that you have got 5 children. It does not allow you to continue staying in a place not paying. You can only be allowed in a property with children under your care if you yourself, you are a child. Court to be lenient to you. And also if you are a person with disability, the court will allow you, will be considerate. But if you are an able person, strong, working, the court frown on such an idea to say you have got 5 children. Unfortunately, today, that is what is happening. And so he's been given the matching orders. He's been given the 2nd of August to leave the property. You know, the law is also on our side, but the unfortunate part is it costs you. You have to go through the legal processes. You need to pay a lawyer to get that's the unfortunate part. But based on all that, I believe there is some benefit in having a property.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you think it's a good thing for somebody to invest? Let's say you just got retirement. Maybe you just got retirement benefits, or you just landed a big opportunity, got some money, and you wanted to invest into something, especially into property. Is it a good thing? And I'm talking about a young person. Let's say a young person, 30 or 25 year plus. Is that a good thing to invest your money into? Or do you think you can do other things and then gradually invest into property?
I think I'll go back to our first statement. You will never go wrong with property. You will never go wrong in the sense that the long-term benefits is still standing, especially if it is in the right location.
Okay.
You will never go wrong. But the short term of issues around rental is headache. Now, if you don't want to handle the short-term headache yourself, get a reputable agency like we've discussed. Now, once you have that, that headache will be off you. But as to the long-term benefit, it's undeniable. It doesn't matter where. Properties appreciate in value, unlike cars. You know, fleet of cars. Today you buy the car, tomorrow the value starts going down. I will still submit that property is still the way to go.
Great. So, Doctor, I'm not sure which property you have, whether you have houses or flats or whatever, but what is it, if you are a first-time investor in property, what would you recommend? get into a house or a flat, or what do you recommend?
You see, money by its nature is difficult to find. You don't need to have all to start something. So I will start from where your money can afford.
Okay.
If it is a bachelor flat, go for it. If it is a 2-bedroom flat, go for it. The moment you broaden your base, you can then extend into houses. That's good. You can go and go, but my interest and what I have observed is property let to students is the safest.
Okay.
And property, and you make sure that you get it in a place where it will be used by students. That will be the best equation. And so I will encourage that. Go for it. If it is even it's just one single, 1-bedroom, go for it. With time, you will build on it, and it will broaden your profile. Yes, I will encourage that. It doesn't matter how it starts. Even if it is just 1-bedroom, go for it, and it can build into something else. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you know anything about lands, especially in South Africa, where you buy the land and build your own house on it. Is that also an investment of thing you would advise, like buying the land, building your own house, or building your own property on? Is this something you would advise?
Yes, I think when you talk about land, let me just put it in simple terms, that there are places in the country that are not surveyed.
Okay.
That are under traditional authorities.
Okay.
Outside the cities. If you go to KZN, we have got a trust under the Zulu monarch called the Nkodama Trust. Those are places you can buy land. I wouldn't use the word buy, where you can get the permission to occupy land. We call it PTO, permission to occupy land. Then it is not, you are not given title deed.
Oh.
You see, there is something called title deed.
Yes. Yes.
You own the property, you are given the title deed. There is a wing in the Department of Land, Agriculture, Land and Rural Development. It's called Deeds Office. Those are the ones responsible for administration of the deeds. So if you buy a property, then you are given a title deed. But a land in these areas I've just mentioned, in some of these rural areas, they have got what we call PTO, permission to occupy. They do not have title deeds. So it cannot be used as a collateral.
Wow.
Security to get a loan from the bank or something. I think these are some of the topical issues that government is busy talking about it to encourage people in the rural areas that are occupying these traditional lands, so that they will mainstream them to give them the economic strength so that they can also get it as collateral security. But if we are looking at the cities, almost all the lands have got title deed, even if it is not occupied. It's been surveyed and it's got the cadastral survey has been done. So there is a title deed attached to it. So you can get an empty land somewhere in Cape Town, any portion in Cape Town, and you buy and build it. That's good. Okay. And I've got friends who bought empty plots in Kells River. Yeah. They've developed it and it's already titled, The value, I believe, will appreciate. It doesn't matter where the property is, just that some areas appreciate far faster than others. Yeah.
So in Cape Town, as you've just mentioned, there are some parts. Which parts are those? If you will be free enough to tell us that appreciates faster than others.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a common cause that if you are in Cape Town and you ask for the south suburb, the south appears to be the most expensive part of the city compared to the northern suburb. A small piece of land in the southern suburb will cost a fortune. Yeah. Small house in the southern suburb, if you compare the size to a property in the northern suburb, you can see that the size of the one in the northern suburb is far more bigger, it's more spacious, but the property prices may be more or less the same. So that the southern suburb, if you got a bigger property in the southern suburb, you are likely to pay an arm and a leg. compared to the northern suburb. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you so much for your time and your insight and all your advices. And I'm sure those who have questions will feel free. You can drop it at the comment section. I will do a follow-up for you if you want to ask more questions that we haven't answered. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope that you have got much clarity about investing in property, especially here in South Africa. So as you've heard, once you go into property, you are not going to get it wrong. Thank you once again, Doctor, and see you maybe another time. Bye, Doc.
Thank you. Bye.